roots. So no longer do we have square roots and cube roots. We can also have what's called a fourth root. We can have a fifth root, sixth root, and so on and so on. When you're talking about a fourth root, it's the same basic principle as a cube root or a square root. What are four numbers that are identical that if you multiply them together, you get 81?
Three.
Three. Aye.
Wow.
Is she right or is she wrong?
How did you think of that so fast?
Well, think of it this way.
Because 9 times 9 is 81, and 3 times 3 is 9.
Well, she's only half right.
What? Oh.
Oh, I multiplied three times. That's
Oh. I get it.
Really?
And here's the reason why you can go plus or minus. It's an even nth root. When you have even nth roots, you can have plus minuses. Okay? If you have, and it all comes out into this little jargon. This is a whole lot of mumbo jumbo for something that's going to be extraordinarily simple. When you have an even nth root, it's plus minus. If it's an odd nth root, it's whatever it is underneath the radical, whether it's positive or negative.
Can it not be negative because of
The root? Well, that's a good question. What is the cube root of negative 8? What are three numbers that are identical that you multiply together to get negative 8?
negative 2?
Negative 2, negative 2, negative 2.
I. The I.
We're not worried about I right now.
I only affects the even ones, right?
Yes.
Oh!
Let it happen, right?
It's okay. Very enthusiastically. Oh! I see.
I get it.
But yeah, and obviously the nth root of 0 is always going to be 0. This is some very, very simplistic things. The idea here is what they're looking at is this n root is even. So you're taking a fourth root of a negative number. There's no real answers. That's what they're saying. It's stuff that you already knew. It's stuff that you can do without any hassle whatsoever. The trick here is when you're doing quick roots and you're taking the fourth root of that 81, is to remember that it's plus or minus. Okay? So if you just remember that you're going to have plus minuses when you have an even nth root, and just whatever the sign is for the odds, you're going to be okay. Everything else is very, very easy. Yes, ma'am?
So if in the fourth root there's a negative in it, would it be plus or minus 3i?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right? Like I said, not so bad. This is what and then they're going to start to do this. They're going to ask you what is the nth root of some value. It's just writing it out differently. The way that we're going to write these out is going to be this generic form. Excuse me. The nth root is what goes in front of the radical. That tells you, is it 4 numbers being multiplied together, 5 numbers, 3 numbers, 2 numbers, whatever. And then they're going to give you some value. So this is asking you, what is the cube root of negative 125?
Negative 5.
Is it going to be plus minus or just regular?
Just negative, because if you was...
Super enthusiastic this morning. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, wait.
Because it's an odd root. What are 3 numbers you're multiplying together that are the same number to get you to negative 125? Negative 5, negative 5, negative 5. That's what it's asking. There's no imaginary here. Imaginary occurs when you're dealing with even roots, even negative roots. If it's an even root or an odd root, it's an even nth root, it's going to be plus minus. It's odd, it's just whatever's underneath the radical. Sorry. Remember, if you're thinking of it this way, cube root of negative 8. 3 numbers multiplied together get negative 8. Negative 2. Negative 2, negative 2, negative 2. 2 negatives make a positive. Positive times a negative is negative. Okay? You're looking at it like completely not speaking the right language here.
You're on the calculator.
This is basically this section.
Which thing
That's it. It's as basic as I can think of right now. If it's an even root, it's plus minus. It's an odd root, whatever the sign is underneath the radical. Okay?
What if it's an even root or it's negative or
Then you have to worry about odd. But for right now, just that's completely different. Okay? You still have to do plus minus. Okay? Again, what is the cube root of negative 8? Okay. So let's look at it in terms of fractions then.
Oh, yeah.
Because roots can be rewritten as fractional exponents. And this is the main idea of being able to switch back and forth.
Is
Well,
that
we're
like what you're multiplying?
Hold on. When you're working with nth roots, when you're talking about roots, you can rewrite them as fractional exponents. Fractional exponents is just another way of writing a root. That's all it is. And we've actually, excuse me, we've actually looked at this in the past when we first talked about 2 cubed was 8, correct?
Oh.
2 squared was 4. 2 to the first power was 2. 2 to the 0 power is 1. 2 to the 1/2 power is square root of 2.
Hey, will we ever deal with negative exponent?
You have.
Well, I mean, like, well, okay.
Negative exponents is coincidence.
Yeah, you've done that.
Yeah, I know that, but like, would you have to do like the negative third thing of 81? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, so a half root is just a half power, excuse me, is a square root. A third power is a cube root. Fourth power, fourth root, and so on and so forth. That's what that says. Okay? What this is telling us is that this happens. When you have this fractional root, I'll write this out a little bit larger on the whiteboard as well. When you have a fractional root, something to the m over n. What this basically means, it's the nth root raised to the mth power. It's the nth root raised to the m power. Okay? And when you write it out with an example, let's say I want to do the 2. I'll go 4 to the 3/2 power. 4 to the 3/2 power. That means I'm taking the. Do they usually put that 2 there for the 2? What does that imply then? If there's nothing there, it's just a square root. Okay. You don't normally see it written like that. Half power means square root. So it means the square root of 4 cubed. So when you're talking about order of operations then, you start on the innermost and work your way out. What's the innermost operation here? Square root of 4. What's the square root of 4?
Negative 2 or 2.
All right. In this example here, when we're doing some simplifying of these things, you don't worry about it. When you do the plus minus, it's usually when you're working with equations, with equals. Okay. When it's just a straight simplify, it's just what is the value. Okay. So what is going to be the answer? God bless you. 8. It's 2 cubed. You get 8. All right.
Would it be bad if we did put plus minus?
You don't need to. And the reason why is you don't have to do that. Because remember all the times when we talked about when you do plus minus is when you take a square root over equal sign. That's usually when we do the plus minus stuff. Okay. That's how that works going in one direction. And then it just means the same thing going the other way. You can also do it with negative exponents. When you work with the negative, if you're working a negative value here, same basic principle, where it's something to the negative m over n. That just means it's not happy, so it's 1 over a to the m to the n, which is 1 over the nth root of something to the m power.
When we do this, will something to the n power always end up as we have to do it where we have to.
If it is a non-calculator part, yes.
Oh,
Okay. And a lot of these things you're going to be able to recognize right away. You know, like cube root, I mean, you might not know the cube root of 125, but you'll learn it pretty quick because it's a pretty common one that shows up. Same thing with like fourth root of 81. It's something that shows up. It's 3. Okay. You get accustomed to some of those. All right, you get accustomed to some. So, like I said, you're going to be able to do some very simple problems like these, some very easy simplifying and finding the answers, rewriting and working through them. So if I'm looking at 9 to the 3 halves, 9 to the 3 halves, that means square root of 9 cubed. You get 27. Not bad? All right. 32 to the negative 2/5. 32 to the negative 2/5. That means it's 1 over 32 to the 2/5. It's the 5th root of 32 squared. Now, well, not 4.
Negative.
No, 1. Now, it looks like it's going to be really weird because you've got that 5th root of 32. That means what are 5 numbers you multiply together that are the same to get you to 32? It's going to wind up being 2. 2 squared is 4, so this simplifies out to be 1/4. Okay? Does that make sense? When we do some of these things, this is where some of you guys faltered a bit on that test. You didn't show some of your steps. Slow yourselves down. Write out what you're doing. Okay? Don't try and go right in your head, because this is definitely stuff that would be done without a calculator. Okay? You'll have to learn how to do some of these. In this case here, you have the cube root of negative. Yes, ma'am. Because it's 1 over all that junk. Excuse me. So here I have the cube root of negative 8 to the 5th power.
Negative 32.
Negative 32? You okay with that?
It's like the reverse of the other one.
It is like the reverse of the other one, yes.
you could make a song out of it.
I suppose you're right today. Maybe not tomorrow. Let the song come out.
It would be bad if we numbered this.
Okay? Which allows us then, oh, we did this, to approximate. Do you know how to use your calculator?
Yeah.
Do you know how to type it in exactly the way you see something?
Yes.
Then I don't need to show you how
How
to
do
do
you do
this.
the negative 4 thing? How do you do the big 4th root? I don't know.
I suppose I will take a second to show you how to type that in.
Where's my calculator?
In your calculator, if you go to your button that says math,
Oh, it's
Oh, man, that's
if you hit the button that says math, you'll see something that says x root, number 5.
Yes. Okay.
It might come up where it says answer then.
But you can change that.
You can change that, so there's one of 2 ways of doing it. You just go right to the x root, you just have to overwrite it and do change that to a 4. But notice what I don't have in this problem. I don't have any parentheses, do I? So there's 1 of 2 things you can do. You can do this first, hit enter, and then just cube it. And when you round these things, you always go 2 decimal places. That's kind of like my standard. So I'd say it's 3.34. I got it. And then if you were going to do it the other way, to type it in exactly the way it shows, you'd have to do the following. Parentheses first, and then press 4, math, number 5. See how it automatically makes it a 4th root? So it does it that way. That's another way of doing it. And then you just type in 5, hit out of the parenthesis, and then just raise it to the third power. And you can type it straight through like that as well. For those of you guys that used that multi-view calculator last year, that calculator is a little bit easier to put in nth roots than this, but it's the same basic principle. If you understand what you're doing to type them in, you're going to get the same answer.
Wait, what the heck?
Okay. So, yay, approximating roots. Yay.
So is the nth root the one before the?
Yeah.
Wait, so
The
you
nth
do
root
it,
is going to be this guy here.
you do it approximately then?
We try not to mess you up too much, Emma. We try. Which means you can now do this. Yay! Solve equations using nth roots. How do you think you're going to do this?
You
Divide
do,
by 2 and then do the fourth
Don't
root of
kill
the-
puppies!
Don't kill puppies, correct?
Wait.
divided by 2 first.
So enthusiastic today, I love it.
He's up here.
You're going to solve these the exact same way as you used to solve all other ones.
It's 3.
Instead of taking the square root, you have to take an nth root
Because
or something along those lines.
162 divided by 2
3.
is 81, and then
So if I'm looking at that first one, what is our first step?
divide by 2,
Divide by 2.
81.
Whoa, isn't that just
Keep it for me. And now, how do you undo the fourth power?
Fourth root.
You fourth root it. Now, this is where it comes in where your nth rooting on both sides of an equation. This is where you do your plus minus step. Okay? You fourth root it. So you have x is going to equal plus or minus 3.
I don't get this.
I thought you were only doing 2.
Oh, wait.
It's
But it'd
just
be like
3.
3.00.
You can write
It's okay,
3.00
this
if
is
you
not
want.
correct. 64 divided by 2 is no 64.
Why'd you get 64?
64 divided by 2 is...
Hey, you know what?
I don't know what this.
Jared, did you fix it?
Yeah, I had to redo it.
Yeah, same.
Sig figs.
This one?
Something
Sig
happened.
figs.
Or
All right, what do you do here?
You boiled that thing, probably. Oh, it's a cube.
you
No.
times that by
No.
Squared.
What's the first thing you have to do? You work on the inside of the parentheses. There's nothing that I can do there, correct?
yeah.
Okay, so now what do?
You find the cube root of 10?
Find the cube root of 10. Is the cube root of 10 findable?
No.
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
Now, since the cube root of 10 is not findable, unless you're going to approximate, what I'm going to do here in this one, when I work with some of these equations, I want us to try it both ways. I want to write out the real solution. I don't mean real in terms of the like your imaginary real numbers. What I mean is
10?
exact. I'm going to write out in terms of exact, and then I'm also going to do the decimal approximation. Now, an exact answer, when we do this, is going to be x minus 2 equals the cube root of 10. How do I get x by itself?
You add 2 to both sides.
Okay. Do I add 2 to the 10?
No.
No. So when I'm going to write this out in terms of exact answers, it's going to look like this. 2 plus the cube root of 10. That is an exact answer.
So you just write that then?
I would write that, and then do your decimal equivalency. Your decimal equivalent of that, when you add them together, you already pressed the color. What do you got? I thought I saw you press the button. 2.15?
Could you, like, if you could simplify the root thing?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because there's going to be times that you're going to get a root that you'll be able to do, like a cube root of 27 or something along that. So you can simplify it further.
Did you also have to add 2?
It's 4.15.
Oh,
I'm calling you a jar.
Oh, 2.15 is the third root of 10.
though.
Okay, you never said that, did you? You just
I
said
saw
it.
you press buttons. I assumed that you were. That's it. I'm done talking to you.
Jared,
Here's the leave.
I'm not allowed.
Okay. Too easy.
1/3 of 81, we haven't done that.
Solve those equations, please. There's always one person on every test, it seems, that always does something like that.
Something like what?
Oh, that you. Besides getting the whole back page wrong.
comes with 420.
Sure look like terror though. Alright, let's get here.
Plus minus, right? Oh, it's plus.
We okay on that? Is it plus minus, guys? Why is it not?
But it's odd, not even.
Odd roots, you stay with whatever you're doing. Okay, when you're taking the odd nth root, you just stay with whatever the sign is. This one here, you divide out by the 3. So x to the 5th is -1. What is x? It's a -1.
Right over your head.
Okay? And this one here, x plus 4 quantity squared equals 0. What is x?
-4.
And then now we have the 4th root of
1,000.
1,000.
10,000.
Okay?
Six big guys.
Oh, wow. That's embarrassing. Oh, wow.
That is embarrassing, yes. Is that twice you screwed up? How easy is this?
I'm not gonna.
You gotta sit closer if you're getting that one wrong.
I didn't, it's usually the same number.
I did plus minus.
Even root. That's a meaning.
Oh, yeah. I just said that. And then
All right, let's make this more interesting. Let's make this a little bit more interesting, and I'll start with one of them. Because this class it's not always going to be that easy. You guys should know that.
Oh, I know that.
Wait, what?
So now I have this.
Do you just times both of them by?
I don't know. Let's just write it down first. And what I have here is we got m equals square root of -1 minus 2m. And we need to solve for m, which means you need to get rid of the nth root.
So you square that.
I square both sides of the equation. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So the square root of junk squared is? Junk. So I square both sides. Do I have to worry about plus minus here? No, I don't. Why don't I? I'm just squaring it. It doesn't matter. Just making sure you guys are messing up here.
What the heck?
So now I have m squared is -1 minus 2m. What do?
You add one and then
Set one side over to 0, so move everything to the left. What times what's 1? You add the other, get 2.
one.
It can't be one.
What's your 0?
-1.
-1. Now, this is where it's very important that you go back and check your answers. Because, again, you could wind up with extraneous solutions. Remember the answer that works but just doesn't work?
Yeah.
So if you go back to substitute in, does -1 equal the square root of -1 minus 2 times -1?
Yes.
No.
Well, let's see here.
Yes.
Was it minus or plus?
You can't.
It wasn't. So in this case here, does we have -1, -2 times -1 is
So it's what?
Oh, nice
becomes plus 2. So does -1 equal the square root of 1?
Yes.
It
Because
can't.
1 times 1 is 1, or negative times -1 is 1.
When you're, I know where you want to, I know where you're going with this. We're not, in this case here, when we go to check the answer came back with just 1 at -1. That doesn't work, though, does it?
I don't get it, because if you
This-
multiply -1 times -1, it's 1, which is the square root of 1, and then it's better.
I know.
just had one.
Yeah, it could be right, it's half right.
Yeah, but we wouldn't do that when it's already just equal numbers.
Okay, this is all right. This is kind of a crappy example now. I look at it. Let's do the other one.
Wait, what's the answer?
I'm saying it's an extraneous solution because
It's not, because you wouldn't do it. Square root.
I think the math teacher's right.
Yeah.
The answer is 22.
I don't get it.
you're looking at it to be verbatim. All right, you're not worried specific. You're not looking to do that plus minus when you take the root. Okay, you're not looking to do that, because you're right, you would have,
What would the real answer be? Would this be what?
in this case, you should have just spent 1. So let's try this again. We agree we've got to square both sides. Okay. When you do that, you get 56 minus x is x squared. Move everything to the right. I get x squared plus x minus 56 is 0. You okay with that? X plus 8, x minus 7, possible zeros of -8, and 7. You okay on that?
Yeah.
So when I substitute them in,
There's only 7.
does square root of 56 minus, oops,
Plus 8.
56 minus -8, does it equal -8?
Yes.
Square root of 56 minus 7, does it equal
Oh, are we
7?
not answering yet?
Okay.
because it's negative.
I don't know. Oh, it can't be -8 because it's a negative. Yes.
We're looking for these because you're not going to take a square root to give you the negative answer. Okay? When you look at it straightforward, we're not taking that on that one. When we're checking it through, when you put that in, you're never going to get a negative answer. That one doesn't work.
So you're never ever gonna have a negative answer?
No.
You're doing it by the absolute
Sometimes you could have, let's say it was x, and what happens if the answer was -8? But what happens on this side it was x plus 10? It'd be 2, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you have to look at it as, when you take that square root, are you gonna get -8? No. All right, that's what we're looking at. We're not getting imaginary solutions. That's what that looks.
Alright,
Why not?
So do the other two. Oh, I don't need to put them on page, they're all right here. Do those last two then, 23 and 24 there. You get negative, you square both sides. You get -1 plus, or -1 minus x is 9. Move the x, move the 9, you get -10. You get -10? Yeah. Okay. So now when you put in, you substitute back in -10, you get -1 minus -10. You get 9. Square root of 9 is?
3.
Does it work?
Yeah.
All right. On the other one, you have to square both sides right off the bat. You wind up with 81 is x over 7. Multiply by 7, you get 567 is x.
Couldn't you like add it?
How? Whoa, how are you?
Like you could do minus 81 on both sides to get 0, and then you put 81 into a fraction.
It's a lot of work, though.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I forgot that you could do that.
Yeah, don't do that. That's bad. Here's some problems.
That was yes, me. Did you know you were a wizard?
there's a chapter about a turtle crossing the road. And then, no, it's about turtles crossing the road. And then there's a chapter about a guy selling a car. It doesn't have nothing to do with stuff. No. It's random plotline, random
Do those, please. All right.
Yeah, but yours is recent.
In
It's not.
this grouping in here, you're solving. Give me the exact and the decimal. Just like I was doing in the notes, how I did the one where I showed you was 2 plus the cube root of 10, and then we said it was 4.15. do both of those for me, okay? A lot of times when you get into ACT style testings and stuff, they will do some of these equations and they'll write it all out and they're going to give you your solutions in terms of exact answers. So you might have to figure out how did they get that as opposed to writing out all of the, what do you call it, the solutions. Okay? Yes, exciting.
So we're doing